Well, I'd entered the 1997 Transpac from Los Angeles to Honolulu to test a new rig, a new mast on my vessel. And on the way there, it's a straight line, run line race, downhill, a lot of spinnaker sailing. But on the way back, you beat north to around 40 degrees and get the westerly winds traditionally. But I was a research vessel, I had extra fuel, so I decided to take a shortcut at my latitude, the latitude of Los Angeles, 35 north, and head through the doldrums, which most sailors avoid. But by doing that, I exposed myself to this garbage patch. We didn't know it existed at the time, but I couldn't come on deck without seeing some form of plastic floating by. Not large objects. I never really entered them in the log. I didn't consider them a threat to navigation. But I experienced this feeling of surprise that this area, as far from human civilization as you can get, was littered. This area is nearly as large as the United States itself. You cross it over a week's time doing 150 miles a day, and you don't have the pieces touching one another. They're just dispersed bits of broken plastic floating on the surface of the ocean. So it's not really a patch. It's more like a soup of plastic that is existing in this area simply because it's calm and the currents tend to concentrate it there. There are 5 of these subtropical gyres, and each of them have their garbage patches. The North and South Atlantic, the North and South Pacific, and the Indian Ocean all have these subtropical gyres. They're the equivalent of oceanic deserts and roughly equivalent to the latitude of terrestrial deserts on Earth. Well, in terms of wildlife, they're dangerous because juveniles go there to grow large. They're not where top predators are because they don't have an abundance of life. They're oceanic deserts. So it's a threat to the developing wildlife. It's also a threat to the developing albatross because they're on a nest at a remote island. Their parents are soaring over these garbage patches looking for detritus. The albatross is kind of like the vulture of the sea. And they pick up bits and pieces and regurgitate them to their chicks. So we're threatening reptiles, the turtles, we're threatening birds, and in our study of fish, we looked at 671 of the small fish that live in this area. On an average, 35% of them had 2 pieces of plastic in their stomachs. Now this is not just non-digestible and non-nutritive, it's also toxic because the plastics absorb pollutants from the sea. What we should be doing is having a rethinking of plastic in our lives, only using those plastics that have an afterlife, that have an end game, that have a take-back infrastructure. And what will happen if we don't stem this tide of plastic running into the sea is we're going to start crashing some of the very fundamental building blocks of the ocean biome. Well, it certainly screws up seafood, you know. Seafood, we want it to be healthy. I mean, we know that the oils that are in seafood, the proteins that are in seafood are easily digestible and healthy foods. But we're polluting those with what we call the POPs, the persistent organic pollutants, and a lot of them are transmitted by plastic. So we're damaging our own health by polluting with plastic. We need individual action, we need governmental action, and we need action by industry. We need design for recycling, we need better chemistry, we need good chemists to produce non-toxic additives to plastic and non-toxic plastics. We need the efforts of the entire human race in every capacity, since every human on the planet is part of the problem. They all are going to have to be part of the solution. It's non-point source pollution.